much for coming. This is wonderful. I really, really appreciate it. This is my first Wonder Con, so, you know, and it's the first time I'm like doing a panel by myself, so I really appreciate all the friendly faces. Better than having tomatoes thrown at me. So thank you very much for coming and taking the time. So I don't have like a, I thought I would just take questions, really, because I don't have, you know, too much to say on my own. So I thought I would just throw it at you guys. Oh, there's she! Mimi! Yay! None of these guys look like Marjorie. So I asked the girls, is this the Marjorie? Because there's like 4 guys up on the table. Oh, Lord. This is the wonderful Mimi Cruz, our moderator. Sorry, folks. Thanks for giving me shit. It's so nice to see you. All right, folks. Welcome to the Marjorie Liu panel. And I'm excited about the next his story novel, that actually starts. But it's not going to be about my interest in work. It's going to be about your interest in work. Okay, is that cool? Yes. Okay. I was just saying I was going to throw it out to everyone and just start hitting up the questions. Yeah. Does anyone have any immediate questions? Does anyone have any immediate questions before? Okay. Let's start knocking it out. Yeah. I don't expect anything to be remembered forever, at least of all my work. I mean, I think it will probably be a footnote, you know. But my hope is that comics keep pushing the envelope. I mean, you know, gay marriage, pushing the envelope. I feel like that should have just been like, you know, a normal thing. But I hope that comics keep pushing issues of diversity and civil rights, and that until like a gay marriage and you know, isn't something that hits the news, but is just accepted. You know, it just is. And so, yeah, maybe it'll be a footnote, you know, but yeah. It was both. It was both. I mean, Marvel was definitely ready. And I was definitely very excited to be the one to write that storyline. Yeah. No. I haven't been single for 3 years. And if I could just make a comment about the marriage and Astonishing X-Men, my husband feels that there should be no discrimination on that level whatsoever, because everyone should be allowed to suffer. Oh, it's a joke. He's joking. He's a wonderful guy. Yes, sir.
There's some comments, please, about your career trajectory, blogs, and outlets, your comments about it.
First of all, maybe you should introduce yourself.
Oh,
because you actually have a very important place, like in the industry.
I just thought it was a place in your heart.
Yes.
So I guess I should, and take it for granted that we're here to see somebody else when I moderate panels. So and because I was embarrassed that I settled in another room, because upset, everything was right. Wait a second. Is Marjorie ready to do this? So, okay. I know. So, my name is Marjorie Cruz, and I am a comic book store manager. So the importance of my job is to unpack comics before the comic book day so that you can get to the store on Wednesday morning and purchase those wonderful stories and support that artwork. So that's what I've been doing for a very long time, and I love it, and I love to read, and I read all kinds of stuff. And I was introduced to Marjorie by just an adored friend of mine years ago, and I was kind of an ass, just so you know, to Marjorie when Cindy said, I don't remember that. I remember it. She's like, Cindy tells me Marjorie's writing one of the hottest books in comics right now. And I'm like, she's writing Green Lantern? Because I was really in the Green Lantern Blackest Night stuff too. And so Marjorie, Cindy goes, no, she's writing Wolverine. Oh, that's hot too, I'm sorry. And he's She's always been my favorite X-Men. So I felt it was an insult at the time and was very embarrassed. So despite my
I had no idea.
well, because I mean, it's kind of silly, you know. I am a comic nerd, I guess, but she's never held those kinds of things against me when I, you know, open mouth look for him. And so I'm very honored that she's asked me to help be your moderator. So that's who I am. I like to read. I sell comic books, and I'm in legal Lucifer, and that's my resume right now. All right, next question. Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
no, actually, I never answered his.
Oh, okay. Answer your
Sorry. Gosh, I didn't start reading comics until I was 18. And that was because I didn't have access to a comic book store. So when I went away to college, there was a comic book store right down the street, and one day I just wandered in, and I was like, ooh, what's this? And I just picked up a few issues, and I sort of fell in love with the X-Men, with Punisher, Wonder Woman, all these great characters. And I never intended to write comics. I was just, I was also,
You never intended to write comics at all?
no, I really didn't.
Even though you enjoyed them?
Yeah, it didn't occur to me until much later, because I wanted to write novels. That was my thing. And so I was always trying to write a novel, I was always trying to write short stories. And it wasn't until I was out of law school and I passed the bar and I was looking for a job that I had time on my hands, I was looking for a job. And so I decided I'm going to write this book that I had always wanted to write and never finished. And it wasn't actually a story that had been burning in my heart for years and years. I just had like the first line. And I was like, now or never, I just wanted to sit down and write. So I sat down and I was really OCD. You know, I had like an A-type personality. And I don't know, I think I lost my mind because I wrote this book in a month. And I sat down and I wrote this book in a month. I did nothing else besides sending out job applications. And I did it. Like, I don't know how. I haven't been able to do it since then, but I did it.
So 30 days or 31?
I'd like to tell myself it was 30. It could have been 31. And then I spent the next couple months revising it. I sent it out, and 8 months later I sold it. I sold it to, I got rejected like 20 times, which I'm sure is a small number. But, and the last publisher that I sent it to was the one that bought it. Everyone else rejected me. And so I sold the book, and I had a choice of whether to practice law full-time and write maybe one book a year, or to write full-time and hopefully speed up, you know, like just literally speed things up and you know, push my career as a writer faster. And I decided to write full-time. I wrote 2 or 3 books a year. I did that for 8 years. At a certain point, I started writing comics because I wrote the X-Men novel, Dark Mirror. And that was my foot in the door at Marvel because the guys had to approve it. And once they did that, you know, they told me they liked the work I did. And so I introduced myself to them at New York Comic Con. I said, if you guys ever need a writer, you know. And amazingly enough, they actually took me up on the offer. And so that's how I got introduced, you know, to Marvel. That's how I started writing NYX and Dark Old Rain. Yeah, and that's pretty much the story. Like really, you know, told in like high speed.
Did you ever regret not practicing law? I think
My parents regret. I didn't practice law. You have to understand, like, my dad is an immigrant. My mom is a good Midwestern, you know, frugal woman. And no one in the family had ever gone like to law school. Like, you know, my mom's side of the family, no one had gotten a advanced degree. My dad was like, you guys who are from immigrant families know this. You are a doctor, or you're a lawyer, or you just don't go. You don't come home. Like, you're dead to the family. So, and because like my minor in undergrad was East Asian Studies and biomedical ethics, because I was going to go the medical school route, and I went into chemistry, and I was like, I just walked out that day. And I was like, no. And so law school was, you know, I was a good kid. I was like the good daughter. I was gonna do law school, and I enjoyed law school. I loved it, but I did not like being a lawyer. I really didn't like being a lawyer. So I have no regrets. I will say every now and then I wake up in the night and I think, oh well, you know, if I've been practicing law all these years, thinking, gosh, like, I'd have a great skill set, but, you know, or I would be in the military, because I also applied for the JAG. So I actually could be in the Air Force right now. I don't know, life's weird. So like I said, my parents are the ones with regrets, not me.
But I think, well, they probably don't regret it now, though, right?
Every now and then, my dad, well, you know what, it's weird. Just last week, my dad was saying, you need to still go back and practice law. And I was like, are you kidding?
You can still do that at any time in life.
I guess, yeah. But I said, listen, because he's like, you should, because I'm living in Boston now. He said, you should go take the Massachusetts bar. He just says this out of the blue. And I'm like, what?
Just for fun.
Just for fun. No, he acted like it'd be the easiest thing in the world for me just to, you know, maybe study for a month and take the Massachusetts bar. And yeah, I'm hearing this hysterical laughter over there. For any of you who are lawyers and real lawyers, that is like, my head exploded. I just sat there, just staring, you know. And I still, yeah, that was just last week.
So but I do agree with you that when you have immigrant parents that, and my parents were not immigrants, but still that core factor plays into it all.
Oh yeah.
That having a traditional type of acceptable career means your child has succeeded, and that is the goal.
It means that they've succeeded, it means they will not go hungry, it means they'll be able to take care of themselves, and as my parents always said, never depend on a man. And they were you know, it was the whole laundry list of all the benefits, you know, for having like a professional, you know, being a lawyer or a doctor. And I can't argue. I mean, let me tell you, being a writer is not easy. And I am amazed. I'm really amazed I can make a living, you know, from writing. That's not normal. I can tell you that is not normal. And when people ask me, should I go to college? Should I write? I'm going to go to college. Like, get your education. Don't, you know, this is a great, like, you know, I never tell people, oh, you know, follow your dreams to excluding your bills, because life's hard.
Do not become a burden on society.
Life is hard.
And the less educated you are, I tell my nieces this all the time, if you don't get an education, you're going to have less choices in life to do.
Yes.
Yes. And you can always still practice law if you want
Yeah.
to. You can always walk into an office or apply. There's always going to be a need for that.
Yeah.
But you have the option to do that versus someone else who doesn't have the option to do it either.
You're looking at the practical table here. I know some of you did not expect to come to like a lecture. I'm like, you know,
How to live your life.
You're getting it.
No, this is maybe the next time we do this, we should, you know, subtitle the panel on how to live your life. Yes. We're going to tell you. Oh, well, I do think that's reasonable though, and that does make a difference between being, you know, independent is not as a dirty word per se, but as to have choices. And I think it's more, and maybe because I'm a woman, but I think it's more important for a woman to have those type of choices because there are certain obstacles that you're never going to be able to go out and dig ditches and you know, use a backhoe.
There aren't any ditch digging jobs anymore.
Well, you know.
Yeah, unless you're in China.
Yeah, or construction.
Yeah.
There's still, you know, we still need men to do, you know, put a new roof on my house and stuff like that. And
Although, my best friend is a woman, is a roofer. She
Really?
runs a roofing company for
That's awesome.
So I have dashed
Okay.
that stereotype.
All right. But in general, you can be a 50-year-old man or 60-year-old man and still do that, where I think, you know, it's not as easy for
I think society has different expectations for women,
I
which
think-
women can definitely like.
Yes. But again, what you've done, you're a good example of this, is you've achieved the goal of success in your chosen career, but also you've also succeeded and you have other options. And that's what I always think is a positive thing. Not just for girls, for men too, but you know,
Yeah.
you are weaker, physically weaker. I don't agree with that, and it makes me angry, but I've been, you know, and you see the evidence of that, and it's not fun. Except for, you know, Maxine Kiss. She's
Yes.
not the weaker. she kicked everybody's ass. My husband's way smarter than I am. I'm going to disagree with that right now.
No. I don't know what I would do, to be honest. I'm too lazy to fail. I am really, honest to God, I am too lazy. Yeah, no, it's actually originally a John Scalzi quote, but I am too lazy to fail. Like, I will change my name. That's the great thing about being a writer, we can change our identities. And people don't know. Like, if you're a sales tank, next year, change your name, change your gender, you know, and you can start all over again.
When you did it in the 19th century?
Yeah.
18th?
And so it's really, so yeah, I will just keep writing. I will just keep writing no matter what.
So you were mentioning that the time that it took you, kind of as you were applying in law school, it took a while when you wrote this book and then spent some months working on it for something. Was there, you think, internal feeling like I really want to push this book more? Because I can imagine when you start getting rejections, that might have pushed you to say, well, maybe law is really the answer. What made you decide to kind of pursue going after the publishers?
That's a really good question. You know, the thing is, I was really stubborn. I knew that I didn't want to be a lawyer for the rest of my life, but I was still applying for jobs. And fortunately or unfortunately, back in 2003, it was the worst job market for lawyers in 10 years. Now, of course, in 2008, things did not get any better, but back then, in 2003, it was the worst job market. So I was applying for the Air Force, you know, JAG, I was FBI, I was law firms, like you name it. And but at the same time, these rejections that I was getting, I didn't let them dishearten me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I felt disappointed, but I kept telling myself, okay, well, if I don't sell this book, I'm going to write another. And I'm going to sell that one. And if I don't sell that one, I'm going to write another one. If I don't sell that one, and I just told myself I'm going to keep going because I had proven to myself that I could finish writing a book. And that is the hardest battle of all, because finishing a project is so difficult. I mean, maybe there are other people who find it incredibly easy to finish writing a novel. I find it very, very hard. And that's the first novel I ever actually finished. And so proving to myself that I could finish a novel that was a huge deal. And so I told myself, okay, I can do this. I know I can do this now. And I will just keep going until I finally sell.
And as a follow-up question, when and how did you tell your parents?
I didn't actually, oh, that's a good question. No, you have to understand.
Wait, they know?
Well, they know now. They better know now, but I actually did not tell my family until I had sold my book. They didn't know I was writing a book. They didn't know I was submitting a book. They didn't know anything until I sold it. And I sold my novel. It was a paranormal romance, a Tiger Eye. And I called my mom and I was like, hey, guess what? I sold a novel. And they were shocked. I mean, they were happy for me, but they were totally shocked. And then she said, well, oh my gosh, she's like, what kind of book is it? And I said, it's a romance novel. And the first words out of her mouth were, what do you know about romance? I was like, Mom! Mom!
You should say everything you talk.
Yes. Oh no, I couldn't say that. Oh, I couldn't say that. I had too much fear. So,
That's hilarious.
yeah.
So have you learned more about romance since writing romance?
Yeah. Yeah,
Annie, I'm curious. This is like maybe a question for everybody, but do you find that romance in general, I guess from my perspective, is that realistic at all? Can you ever? I mean, because obviously, I think romance. I think Jane Austen, unrealistic fantasy. Jane Eyre, yeah, of course he's married already and has got a crazy wife locked in the attic. That makes sense to me. But the other stuff. So I wonder, is it realistic on any level?
I think that's a good question. I feel like the romance novels answer a very profound hunger within people, or specifically women. And I think that, I mean, there's a reason why this is $1 billion market. It's because romance novels, when you read one, you're getting relationships are hard. Like, men are hard. Like, men are difficult to be with. I'm sorry. I mean, women, I'm sure the men are saying that, I'm sure the men are saying that women are difficult to be with too. But I I think the relationships are hard. And when you read a romance novel, you're reading an idealized, like, you know, sort of vision of a great, perfect relationship, like great, perfect love. And that's fun. That's really, really fun. And happy endings are fun. And like, even if you have a great relationship, even if you're totally in love with your partner, romance novels are still fun because you're still like, you know, you're still learning, you're still reading about people falling in love. You're still reading about that tension, that first tension between, you know, a man and woman, or a man and man, woman and woman, but like that first tension within a relationship and the coming together and sort of the adventure of that. And it's great. Like, it's really, I mean, like, I'm a romance reader. The romance readers I know, like, this is what we love. We love reading about love. So.
Do you think when you read other romance books that helps you maybe in the relationship you're in at all? And one of the things I really like about the Mexican story is I really like her relationship with Grant. And the way you portray that as a loving, respectful relationship. Like my husband's quotes all the time when we see something we don't agree with is that if you love somebody, you should always treat them like you love them. And I see that represented in that relationship.
Thank you.
I like that, but when you read someone else's, do you feel like there's aspects of that that can be true to life?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. I think that.
I'm not baiting you with
Oh
this, I'm
no!
just
Oh no! I
saying-
didn't think you were. No, I didn't think you were. But actually, I think that I do think that when you know, I mean, I know plenty of women who have been in terrible, terrible relationships, and they read romance novels, and they say, you know what? This is a quality that I really appreciate, you know, in these characters, in this particular hero or this heroine. And I'm going to look for this in my next partner. I'm going to look for this. I'm going to strive to find this in my next relationship. And it's like a weird sort of therapy. And you know, and people I know, like they have partners who they feel like are, you know, this is their romance hero. Like they'll read romance novel and say, this is my husband, this is my boyfriend, you know. And it's so yeah, like it's not total fantasy.
No, here. Well, I just want to share it. My husband is Frederick Wentworth, just kidding.
Iron Kiss graphic novel?
There was discussion of that a couple of years ago, and then it just didn't go anywhere. So my hope is that one day, I'd love to see it too. My hope is one day there will be a graphic novel series or a Hunter Kiss graphic novel series.
Preferably new stories, not
Adapted.
stories that are already there and just picturized.
It would depend. I can't say for sure, but it would depend.
I agree with the story.
But I would too, but
Thank you.
like a novella kind of situation.
Hopefully. There was discussion of writing it like a brand new novella and having that adapted into graphic novel format. And then again, it just, yeah, it would have been fun, but again, it just didn't go anywhere.
And use her covers reflect who she is.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So you, and then we'll go that corner.
When you wrote the X-Men novel, did you approach it as just fiction and a good story that you wanted to tell, or did you go into, I mean, this classic characters like Spider-Man, they're always like rebooting and reinventing them. And so did you pick a particular version of the X-Men, or?
Not really. I mean, yes and no. Like I told the story I wanted to tell, but the only thing Marvel said was make it something that new readers, it'll be easy for new readers to understand. So, I mean, I don't know, like they approved it, but I ended up doing this body switching story in which Wolverine ends up in the body of a woman, Cyclops is in the body of a woman, Jean is in the body of like a big black man, and there's talk about whether or not Jean and Cyclops have sex, whether or not she'll get Cyclops pregnant. I mean, like, I don't know if all of this was like really like new reader friendly. But they said go do it, so I did it.
So there's a lady, or no.
Yeah, I was just curious. You talk about how finishing a novel is one of the hardest things, and you know, whenever you're doing creative work, whatever, you hit a roadblock. or something, or just you just get to the point where it's like, this doesn't work. Like, how do you address that? Like, how do you get through those tough periods in your life?
When I hit a roadblock in my novels.
Yeah. Or in your novels.
I used to not handle it well. When I would get writer's block, it would really I would do the whole ripping around, tortured artist, sort of, sitting in a dark corner like thing. And it didn't do me any good. And it certainly didn't do the novel any good. And what I finally figured out was when I hit a roadblock, it's because I've done something wrong in the story. Like the story just isn't, I took a wrong turn basically, like the plot doesn't work. And so the reason why I'm stalled is because the plot doesn't work and I need to go back and figure out why that is. And so, sometimes it's not an easy process to figure out what went wrong, especially because I tend to write by the seat of my pants. And so it's just like a free flow. And I just write and write and I write and then, and I just follow the flow of the characters. But the flow of the characters sometimes doesn't make a good story. Now it's different with comics. I don't have that luxury because when I was writing the X-Men, Dark Wolverine, X-Men 3, it's a monthly issue. So you have to know what's coming ahead of time. You can't go back and change your mistakes. And so I would write, I had to write a synopsis and figure out what was going to happen. And because if I make a mistake, I can't go to the artist and say, do it over again. I can't go back the previous month and go back in time. So I really need to know what's happening. And it wasn't foolproof. There were times where I was telling stories where I felt like I didn't have full control over the plot, and it began to get away from me. And I felt like it showed. Whether or not it did, I felt like it did. And so, but it's something that it's hard. It's something I'm working on, but it's like a process. I mean, I'm still learning. Each time I write a book, I don't always feel like I know how to write. Like when I sit down to begin writing a new book, I'm not convinced I know how to write a novel. It doesn't matter that I've written 17 novels. Every time I start a new one, I'm not sure I can do this again. I'm not sure I know how to do it. And then I just sit down and do it. But it's weird. Like each time I write a novel, I learn something new.
So it's not getting easier, you're saying?
No, it gets easier in some ways, but it gets harder in others. But it's just a process.
So the old adage that it's still a job is applies?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
because, I always think the grass is always greener. I've never thought the job was easy. Mostly because I don't want to write, but I've never looked at that and said, oh, that'd be a very easy job. I love that. So I like to emphasize that people who maybe don't realize that, but it's still a job. It's just because it's glamorous to somebody else doesn't mean that you can do it without thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it requires a lot of, it does require a lot of planning and thought. So you, and then,
I was just wondering, when Marvel did do a book like Astonishing X-Men, do you get to pick the team, or do you
I got to pick the team. I mean, they told me Wolverine had to be in the book, because Wolverine has to be on every book. I think we know that. Yeah, I think we know that. But just who I thought would tell the most interesting stories, like who would work off each other the best. Yeah. So.
When you started writing comics, as opposed to novels came first and then you started writing comics, how did you kind of juggle them at first? Because they both seem really different, and as far as your energy and your just disciplining yourself for the time between the two and all of that. How did that work for you when you were starting?
That's a good question. It was hard because I had to learn. I had to be really disciplined because it began to be that comic books were more fun for me to write than novels because they're faster. It's sharply visual, and I just had a good time doing them. And so what I would do is I would force myself, I would get up in the morning around 6 or 7 a.m. and then write my novel until mid-afternoon. And then comics, I would save for the evening. And so separating myself time-wise and saying mornings, afternoons for novel, evenings for comics was a way for me to sort of partition myself. And I don't have to do that as much anymore because it's just, I've been doing it for a while now. But in the beginning, that's what I had to do sort of. So.
discipline is important.
Far Side?
I haven't seen
Okay.
it. There's this fellow here.
Actually, spinning out of that question, I've heard from many comic creators who have started out just purely comic stripping prose, and it's hugely affects the way they feel they write prose. As somebody who started out in prose, went to comics with writing and doing prose, has the comic stripping affected how you approach your prose novels?
The one thing it has affected is the way I organize my thoughts, because I had to learn how to write, how to plot ahead for comics. That's something I can never do for novels, and I still find it difficult, but I'm trying to bring those skills into novel writing to help me plot out my books and feel more secure in my storyline before I move forward. But for me, actually, what's happened is there were stories, before I started writing comics, there were stories I would think of for novels, but I couldn't figure out how to write them as a novel. Like, it just felt too big. Like, there are ideas you have that you know, early on, I say, oh, this would be a great novel, but I didn't know how to write it. And what I discovered was, now that I can write comics, these ideas I had before would be perfect comic books. Like, I couldn't write them then as novels. I didn't know how. But now I realize, oh, all along, this would have made a great comic book. And so that's been actually a key lesson for me. It's really opened up the way I think about my work, because I don't feel locked in anymore. You know, before, when I was just writing novels, I always felt a little bit locked in, because I wasn't really sure. Like, I didn't feel sometimes that the novel format was the right format for certain stories I want to tell. And I don't have those blocks anymore. I can do whatever I want. It's really liberating. It's great. But I can see how it would be. I'm glad I started out writing novels first and not the other way around. Because writing novels is really hard. And if you're transitioning from comics to novels, it's totally different. It's totally different. Like, it's an endurance run when you write a novel, because you have to stick with it for 100,000 words, 400 pages. And so the muscles are very different. It's still storytelling, but you really have to be patient. You have to be patient with yourself and with the work, and it's not easy. It's really not easy. In comics, it's just fast. It feels so much faster. So it'd be very hard to have to slow down. It's going to be worse.
Yes, sir?
Is there an artist at this point that you look forward to working with or trying to work with?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
There's a lot of talent out there, but there's some really good ones.
oh yeah, like I have to admit, I love every single artist I've ever worked with. Every single artist I've worked with, Camo, on Dark Brain. I mean, my gosh, his document was amazing. Phil Noto on X-23. Who else? Black Widow. I mean, all these people are just fantastic. Like, I would work with them again. And I'm always like looking. Gabriel Hernandez Walter. You know, we found him because he did one fill-in page on Astonishing X-Men, and I just fell in love with his work instantly. So, and that's why later on, when Mike Perkins had to leave, I was like, please give me this guy, because I know he can do the X-Men. So I'm always looking for new artists. Like, when I walk around, I'm always like sort of, it's weird because it's like a weird thing to feel like you're scouting, but I always kind of am, because I love artists, and I love working with artists. And there's something really inspiring and exciting when you find an artist that you think will fit a story. The artists themselves inspires the story. So I find myself deeply, like I was always deeply inspired writing for Phil Noto, and deeply inspired writing for Gabriel, because there's something about their art that just energized me. Like, it actually just made my brain work better when I would think about what I was writing for them. And so, yeah, like I love it. Like, it's actually addictive. It's addictive.
Which comes first, the story or the pictures? Or do you guys put it together?
So, well, I mean, it depends. Sometimes I like,
You put on the pictures?
no, no, it's okay. Oh, you mean like in just a regular comic?
Yeah.
No, it's always the story that comes first. I mean, sometimes I'll have an image in my head, and the image becomes the story, but it's usually just like a script.
Did you get to talk to the artist about what
Oh,
you
yeah.
wanted to?
Oh, yeah, it's a real collaboration. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm looking around for you. Go ahead, Phil.
know, studying the law is sort of like studying human nature in all its foibles and all its strengths. And so even though I never have actually thought about, like I've never really brought consciously the law into my work, I know it's always there. Because there's something about law school, it doesn't matter if you spend like 3 years playing video games or whatever, like law school is super intense. It is really, really, it's like a boot camp for your brain. And it doesn't matter if I feel like I've forgotten all of it, like I know it's still in there, and I know it's still influencing the work I do. You had it, yeah.
Can you talk a bit more about your process in writing and the differences between novel writing and comic writing?
Yeah, sure. So the thing with the novel is, again, it's basically like an endurance run. My process for writing a novel is, and this is like I was working this morning, I got up at 6 a.m., I was down at Starbucks, and I worked till like 10. And it's you have to do it a little bit each day. Like, okay, I take that back. I have to do a little bit each day. I shouldn't say everyone's different. My process is I have to break it off in chunks. So I tell myself, if I write 1,000 words a day in 3 months, I can have a novel. If I write 500 words a day in 6 months, I can have a novel. If I write 3,000 words a day in 1 month, I can have a novel. And so I break it down like that. It makes it much easier to handle, because if I just think about it in terms of writing a novel, it just feels too overwhelming. So I play number games with myself. That's how I get through the book. I just tell myself a little bit each day, and in a couple months I will have this. But as far as like developing a story, as far as doing that, it's harder. It's more tenuous for me, because a lot of times again I write by the seat of my pants. So I'll start out with an idea. I'll start out with bullet points of what I want to do in the novel, and I just try to work myself towards those. Now with comics it's different, because comics are so much shorter. It's like you have an arc. So I'll plot out maybe a 4 to 6 issue arc, which will be about 120 pages. 6 issues, like a six issue, 6 issue arc, 20 pages each, about 120 pages. That's like a graphic novel. And so I try to plot it out from beginning to end, and I say, okay, I break this into 6 parts. What happens to me, And then again, it's a matter of just sitting down. And it's different with each book. I remember there were a couple issues of Dark Blue Brain where I did nothing but write dialogue first. Like I literally wrote all the dialogue first in the issue, and then went through and broke the dialogue down by pages, and then broke them down by panels, and filled in like the visuals. And then other issues, like with X-23, I would write all the visuals first, and I would save the dialogue till the actual lettering, because I wanted to see how the art came out. I wanted to see what happened with Phil. And so it's kind of like I played it fast and loose in a way, but whether or not it's for novels or comics, both for me are I'm a very visual person, and it's just a matter of breaking it down, doing a little bit each day. With comic books, I would do 3 pages a day. 4 pages a day, and in a week I would have a comic book written. And so, the whole thing is, if you can't finish the work, it doesn't matter what you do, you will never get published. You just have to keep reminding yourself of that. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you can't finish it, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And so that's always what I tell myself. And do what it takes. Carve out the time you need. That's half the battle. That's half the process for me, carving out the time I need. And telling myself, if I just do a little bit each day, it's manageable. And I'm still working, and I'm still getting the book done. So, yeah.
There was somebody,
Okay.
your lady next to you. Yes, her. Yeah.
Oh.
We just couldn't talk to you about paper.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to know if, was it easier because you had been a novelist previously to get into comics, or did you still have to prove yourself as a comic writer?
Oh, sure. I think being a writer was helpful, but novels are so different from comics that NYX was basically like a test run. When I was in NYX, my editor was John Barber at the time, quite sure what it was going to be. When they first invited me to write NYX, I just wrote like a crazy sample script for them. Like I was like super excited. And I wrote like a sample script and it had like demons in it. And like, I can't remember, like interdimensional, whatever, like this for NYX. And he was like, okay, this is nice, you know, but let's tone it back a little bit. Let's talk about like, you know, really like a 6-issue arc. And, you know, he gave me examples of scripts so I could see what the format was. And yeah, like I did have to prove myself. I did. You can't just walk into this and be like, bam, you know, I'm here. But again, like John Barber was a great mentor. Jody LaHook was no, actually it was Michael Horowitz. He was the editorial assistant then. He was also a great mentor to me, and they just talked me through the process. And by the end of, I would say by the time I was writing the 5th or 6th issue, that's when the subject of Dark Little Ring came up. And I think by then they thought that I could handle this. And so, you know, they paired me with Daniel Way, and the rest was history. But yeah, no, it was hard work.
There was a fellow over here. Yeah.
I kind of had a question. I wanted to ask how you feel about, or how it feels to work in a sort of story environment where people are passing a character like a baton. And the reason I bring that up is because in your Black Widow story, you introduce, or you discuss Black Widow's husband, and as a character that passed away a long time ago. Immediately after your story, the next writer brought back her husband as a supervillain that was still alive. And I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that happened, and I wanted to know how you feel in these worlds where like one character will someone take your story in a different direction or things like that.
I actually didn't read that arc. I actually had no idea that happened.
Spoiler alert.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. I have to tell myself all the time these are not my characters. And as soon as the arc is done, I am done. I'm done. And with certain characters, it's hard not to look at what's going on and be like, oh, but that's not healthy, and that's not like it's just I've got better things to do, and so so I basically tell myself, and the same thing when I finish writing a novel, I'm done writing that novel. Like I don't look back. Like I would be hard pressed to tell you the plots of a lot of the novels I've written because it's like a weird divorce. Like once I finish a project, it's like I totally remove myself from it completely. I don't know why. I think it's a survival instinct because once the book comes out, like if there's bad reviews, they don't hurt as much. Like if I'm fully divorced from the book. So and it's the same thing with comics. Like once I'm done with the run, like I really try to be done and not think about what the characters and what's being done with them or how they're being written in different ways. But I have to say, it's nice to own your own characters. It's really nice to own your own characters, and I think I loved writing the novel. I loved X-23, and I loved Black Widow, and I loved writing those characters, and I hope to write them again one day. But it's nice like owning what you write at the end of the day. It really is, because then you don't have to say goodbye unless you really want to.
The lady over here. Yeah.
Do you have any idea or able to know about writing your own graphic novel?
Oh yeah, that's next. Oh, that's next. Yeah, I think that's creator-owned projects. I'm hoping to announce something this summer. And if I don't announce it this summer, it'll be in the fall. But yeah, like actually those are creator-owned projects are next on the horizon.
Can I ask questions based on what,
Yeah.
because I've had this question kind of, because I'm a comic, I read everything now, novels too, but have you ever thought about maybe doing a miniseries comic style-wise with Maxine's Demons, what they're doing, and she's not aware of what they're doing, because sometimes at night, they're not on her, so except for,
I have actually.
That would be kind of fun, little adventures, kind of like,
I
not
have.
itchy and scratchy style,
Right.
but,
If I did that, I think it would probably be a webcomic. Like I don't know if I would do that as like I don't know if I would do that as a full print comic, but I could definitely see myself doing that as a webcomic.
because they don't really speak our language that we know of.
Yeah, except they're like out eating people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or what kind of adventures are they up to? What are they doing? How do they communicate? I mean, you'd be wordless, but I'm fascinated. You've made them three-dimensional for me, and they're real, Anna.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
so sorry that this is not a problem. Next question. There was somebody I thought, okay, here, this sir.
This one comes out of the fact that you mentioned with Phil Noto, you wait until after the art before you write the dialogue. One of my favorite issues that I believe was X-23, number 21, where she's running around. Yeah. Was that something where you chose before?
I chose that deliberately. I wanted, it was the last issue, and I didn't have actually that much time to plan the last issue. And I just thought, okay, X-23 is not much of a talker anyway. Like, silence made perfect sense for her. Like, to do a fully silent issue, I really couldn't think of a better way to end the series because that's her. Like, she lives in silence. Like, that's who she is. And then also Phil is such an amazing artist that I felt like a silent issue would also be sort of like, there's no other, I mean, he can do it. Like that, for me, like that was also a way for him to sort of, you know, give his last, like, sort of, his last touch in the series, because his art is so fantastic and always threw the book so perfectly that, that nothing else needed to be said. Really, honestly, in a lot of the issues that he did, there wasn't usually a lot of need for dialogue, because his art always spoke so perfectly. And so I really, it was very deliberate. It was a very deliberate choice. Both, I wanted to give that to Phil, but I also wanted to give that to the character.
On that note, did you find that easier or harder to write that without kind of dialogue?
The issue?
Yeah.
The issue couldn't have had dialogue. The way it was structured, I actually think dialogue would have taken away from it. I think it was better silent. Yeah.
Things like graphic novels, comics, it's really easy to get just completely caught up. What do you do to decompress?
That's a good question. I mean, it's okay. Well, here's the thing. So, let me get real. I spent 8 years writing 2 to 3 novels a year, plus comics, plus novellas, and I got burned out because I never decompressed. I thought I was decompressing, but there was no way for me to actually decompress. And I was like living between China, I was living between Indiana, and even though I was traveling, I still wasn't decompressing because I was always working. So if you had asked me that question 3-4 years ago, I would have given you like an answer I thought was truthful at the time. I would have said, oh, I read and I do this and this and this. But I would have just been deluding myself because I really was like hyper stressed out. And so I decided to take a break. Like I got to the point where I was so burned out that I really could not see myself writing another novel, ever. And that for me was super dangerous because I am a novelist. Like I did love writing. I love writing novels now. I did love writing novels when I started out, but there was a point 4 years ago, where I did not love writing novels anymore. And I didn't want that to be my future. I didn't want that to be my future. So I actually deliberately stopped. I turned in my last book contract, which was like my paranormal romance Within the Flames or something, and I said, I'm done. And I need to take a break. And so, and I was still writing comics, because I could handle comics. Comics for me just were not as stressful as novels. And also I just needed to pay the bills. So, and writing comics is like a monthly paycheck. So, as we go back to the whole practical, beginning of this conversation. But I started traveling more, really traveling, like not just, research traveling, but actually traveling, enjoy the traveling. I moved. I started actually seeing friends and making friends, like as opposed to seeing friends once a year at a convention, which is really a drag. And so the answer now that I can give you, which is honest and actually accurate, is that my way of decompressing is I hang out with my friends. We have our television shows that we love to watch together. We're like have Orphan Black scheduled in, so like every weekend we get together and we're like have Orphan Black night. We have Game of Thrones night, and we're like, and we go out to eat together. super happy relationship. Like, I decompress through people and through like living, as opposed to in the past decompressing through just like this, like just being in my little writing cave, holed up, and sort of always constantly vibrating with stress. So now when I put the work aside, I really put it aside. I really put it aside. And I work during the day, and then at night, I just let it go. And that's much, it took me, it was a long process getting there. Let me tell you, it was not easy. Because I was like, you
I
know.
think we're just about out of time.
I can do like a couple like really fast. So I saw
It's fast.
you, and we'll see how much, okay, fast.
Do you think for what they call binge watching, or do you like to watch new shows as they come out?
As they come out. No comment.
There was a
What paranormal romance series are you really enjoying right now?
I hate to say it, like historical romance. Yeah, like Sarah McLean and Eloise James, and I've done a historical romance binge. Yeah. So
we can do one more.
Yeah.
I think we have to stop.
I'm
Is this still over here? Can you make it quick?
Have you ever wanted to do anything for DC?
yes. That's not saying I will. Huh?
It's not saying you will.
That's not saying I will. There are characters I would like to write, but I'm not. Anyway, that's a whole other. I got like my partner gets irritated because I go like on like a DC rage spiral sometimes. He's like, please just stop, not at dinner.